Nothing breaks the news like the news. Trust me, I can prove it. Join me for a showdown of the big stories right here on JFM 101.9 Anthony D Live.
Thank you so much for taking your time to join in this very evening. Good evening to you. Hope you're having a good day. Well, it's the 15th day of February 2017, and some say it's the day after the day that love starts. For some people, it's a day that would be the start of the rest of their life. I can imagine the number of proposals that did go down just yesterday, getting people to fall in love or recharge their love or to find love, if you will put it that way. Welcome to the show this very evening. There's always room to debate, room for debate with Femi D Live. I am Femi D. Good to have you join the show. Well, a lot is going on across the country, and it's my responsibility to keep track of it. It's my responsibility to share with you as the news happens and things to really focus on. Even today, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics did release a new report that also did show that inflation rates and the consumer price index, which pretty much indicates the inflation rate, is still on the rise, even though some of the economic makers and some of the guys who read the economic weather are confident that we are on the way to recovery. Well, that's one line of thinking. However, Yakubu Dogara yesterday did not agree with those figures. He says we may not exactly be growing or getting the growth, so much growth one can talk about in this slide. So he has his reasons to rethink, agree, or even disagree with the fortunes, the success, and the abilities of the Nigerian economic makers and how well they have done so far, so good. So there's a lot to think about when you say the Nigerian economy. Also, this evening, I can confirm to you that the Speaker of the National Assembly and also the Senate President, both of them have traveled to London, the United Kingdom, to pay a visit to President Muhammadu Buhari. Of course, there's a lot going on there. It appears there are many eyes that need to see him for Nigerians to possibly get to the point of confidence and say, well, he's well and his recovery is on point to a large extent. Some even argue the fact that despite the fact that Yakubu Dogara, the Speaker, did write clearly last week that he spoke to the President for at least 5 minutes and they talked about how the economy of the country can really be revamped well. Some say it's arguable in terms of details they did speak about. Well, I can confirm to you now that the White House, the United States White House, which is really where much of the seat of power, their own Asurok, in press briefing earlier today, they did confirm the conversation between President Donald Trump and President Muhammadu Buhari. They did confirm, the White House press secretary confirmed that there was a conversation as such. It was an extensive briefing. It was about 46 minutes. And at some point, it took our time to say President Trump did speak to Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari in that regard. So for some of you who do know. Now, much of the week has been spent or continues to be spent with various ministries, departments and agencies spending time to defend what their figures are like for the 2017 budget. Some figures point to the fact that they're responsible figures and their figures have been put together by people who are mindful. I know the right way to say it is mindful, but I'm saying mindful of how Nigeria can do well. Mindful would mean you've talked about the figures, you've talked about the projections, you've talked about the projections, you know exactly what needs to be done, how it should be done, when it should be done, and where exactly it should be done. Well, people who are mindful of the concept of zero budgeting and also to ensure that the best money spent. Well, they're sitting it all out. Various DGs, various leaders of organizations under the government are having to sit before various committees to prove the figures they have put in the 2017 budget is justifiable. I tell you this is a little bit different from the tradition, especially with the Senate committees. A lot of the ministers have requested that the various DGs, the various leaders, come close, come and sit next to me. So the next time they ask about your firm or the organization you represent, you have no reason to hesitate to say, oh, this is why this figure is this way. This is why there's reason for dues that cost 2 million naira for a year. This is the reason why we want to clear the sewage for another 5 million naira. Or this is the reason why buying recharge card or buying newspaper may cost 150 million naira. You never can tell. But these figures finally have somebody who would have to explain why there should be that much. Well, we'll see how that turns up to be. But it's interesting to see as well and how thorough the lawmakers are approaching and also advising and asking some of the various directors, directors generals and the ministers to revise some of their own proposed figures. What do I mean by that? Earlier on today, Babachide Fashola, not yesterday, Babachide Fashola, the Minister of Power Works announcing, while threw his hand up saying, I don't know anything about it. You said how much? 2 billion? I can't explain. I'm not too sure those figures came from my table. So, following that move, the lawmakers invited the Minister of Finance to come and explain and give detail onto why we have 2 billion naira sitting in the housing sector, the Ministry of Housing, as one would say, Works and Housing and the rest of it. Why there's 2 billion naira to explain when the minister who is in charge of that budget, who possibly understands that those documents are ready, can't explain and says, I really do not know what you're talking about. What do you mean? I really do not know. Excuse me? Wallahi, Babu, no idea why those figures are that way. Miomo. Now it goes on. I mean, he's a Yoruba man, a staunch one as well as it. So Miomo. It goes on to say he really doesn't know. So you find those moments also come up, and it doesn't exempt. It doesn't just talk about the ministers. It also the lawmakers are looking so close to the extent that the Chief of Army Staff has also had reasons to appear before the lawmakers to say a little bit about the defense budget. You know, the defense budget is so interesting. It's a time of budget when you spend, you actually do not have to show up with kind of a receipt to say, oh, this is why we spend 500,000 naira in buying one extra bullet. Well, usually that happens. But the Chief of Army Staff has had to respond that in recent times to those figures. Here is a little bit of what he said.
The sum of 11.75 billion naira for the 2017 Nigerian Army overhead for routine administration and maintenance of Nigerian Army personnel, equipment and infrastructure. Just as I mentioned, we have new formations, new divisions and units. This has increased the overhead requirements for the Nigerian Army. Definitely, we will require more funds to cater for this aspect of the budget. Thirdly, the sum of 22.9 billion naira should be approved for the Nigerian Army 2017 capital budget. This is required for construction, acquisition and maintenance of capital assets across Nigerian Army formations, units and various status of operation. This is also further buttressed that with the new Nigerian Army OBAT, which has brought on board new formations and units, we need these funds to maintain them and execute some projects so that the new formations will have a sound footing. Actually, this is just a fraction of what is required to implement our budget 2017 based on the Nigerian Army Order of Battle 2016. Finally, we request this Honorable House that it is our prayer to impress on the Ministry of Finance to stop further deductions from Nigerian Army overhead allocation for settlement of indebtedness to the distribution companies of the Power Holding Company of Nigeria, and indeed for the federal government to absorb the accumulated debt over the years. Most of the bills that were presented to us were arbitrary and coupled with the epileptic service that we have been receiving from the Power Holding Company of Nigeria and the associated companies. This, once it is done, will have a fresh start so that we don't accumulate any debt again in the future. This, we are taking steps to ensure that our units and formations are metered to avoid arbitrary billing by the distribution companies of Nigeria. On this, I want to assure you that our efforts to keep the country, Nigerian Army actually in the Northeast does not remain only with the operational aspects, but we also get ourselves involved as part of the programs for winning the hearts and minds of the populace. We need their support to be able to get more knowledge and information about the activities of the Boko Haram terrorists who are widespread in the in the region. This will help us to really fish out the remnants that are on the run. The Honorable Chairman, I want to state here that we've also embarked on some community health projects, which we popularly refer to as quick impact projects in most of the communities that we operate. We've opened up roads, and we've also made efforts to see to the welfare of the internally displaced persons and some communities that have been isolated and have been ravaged by the Boko Haram terrorists, but they are back through the construction of boreholes, as well as providing medical care to the communities.
As a result of the motion that we have graciously passed, I ask the Chief of Army Staff to stand up and bow. You haven't taken your bow.
And that's the moment where you find the Chief of Army Staff, of course, also make his own deliberation. And one cannot but also mention the fact that he requested, hey, please tell the Ministry of Finance to stop deductions, some deductions that he feels could be handled differently. He also said federal government to absorb bills, arbitrary bills to a large extent. But that's not all. It's been interesting to see how everybody defends questions that have been asked of them. Here's another moment. This time it was the Minister of Information, Culture and Tourism, Lai Mohammed. Here would have to be some of his responses as he was asked about figures. Oh, we'll just play part of this.
Attempt to be as brief as possible. And the standard procedure is that, we have to first look at the presentations, concerning the performance of the 2016 budget, and that is 2016 appropriation. You agree with me that, it is the responsibility of this committee, to ascertain what you did with the resources that were allocated to you, last year. At least, in the sectoral allocations that were made, as described, personnel, overhead, and of course the capital. And then the other issue about revenue, which is the IGR. So all the considerations we are going to have today with respect to performance of the 2016 budget, we considered under this, subheads.
So those were a little bit, that would have to be a little bit of the preamble to the questioning of Lai Mohammed and what he has to respond to. Here would have to be a little bit of what he said.
702,469 naira 28 kobo. Only the total expenditure stood at the sum of 561,702,466 naira 28 kobo. Capital Development Funds. The sum of 327,180,500 naira was appropriated in 2016 for the culture sector to undertake 4 major projects, namely establishment of cultural centers in 6 states, land acquisition, study tour to sites for information gathering, outstanding liabilities on NOC museums. Out of the appropriated sum of 327,180,500 180,500 naira. The sum of 291,180,500 naira was cash backed, and this represents 91% of the appropriation. The sum of 36 million, representing 9% of the 26 total appropriation, was not released. Utilization of the 2016 capital appropriation. It is pertinent to state that out of the total release of 291,180,500 naira, the total expenditure commitments to date stand at 201,192,775 naira, representing 69% of the allocation as tabulated below. Total allocation 291,180,500, less expenditure 173,042,175, balance available 118,138. The details are as follows. A. Establishment of cultural industries. Another is regulation of cultural industrial centers is in Appendix C, totaling 68,704,125,000. Supply and installation of generating sets to cultural industry centers at EB and Taraba State Appendix D, 7 million. Provision of borehole and wire tank at cultural industries in Tuku, 7,050,000 naira, Appendix D. Supply and installation of traditional equipment at cultural industry centers. Again, this is to be the details totaling 25,200,000 are to be found in Appendix E1 to E2. The remaining balance of 102,095,825 naira from the 210 million will be utilized for the completion of the construction of the 3 cultural industries in Lagos, Edo, and Adamawa states, which are already in the procurement process. Land acquisition. The sum of 60 million naira was appropriated, while the sum of 44,158,000 was utilized to procure and process land documents for the establishment of the cultural industries in Lagos and Adamawa states. The remaining balance will be used to open up the land for easy access. Study tour to sites for information gathering. During the year, the sum of 20,980,000 was utilized out of the appropriated sum of 21,180,500 naira for the purpose of study tour to sites for information gathering and compilation of tourism sites and attraction for the production of a compendium for effective marketing of tourism products. Outstanding liabilities for construction, electrification, furnishing, Knock Museum. The fund for this was not released. So if you look at the details, establishment of cultural centers in 6 states, expenditure, commitments to date. Effect of the outstanding liabilities on Knock Museum, 36 million was appropriated, no money was released, and therefore we could not do anything there. And we have the total that's tabulated below. Other capital projects appropriated that are common to both information and culture sectors are tabulated below, talking about purchase of office. and of office and training, equipment, purchase of generators, purchase of vehicles, purchase of office furniture, purchase of office equipment, purchase of safety equipment, acquisition of training materials, installation of inverters. These are projects that are common to both information and culture sector.
So it went on and on a little bit about what had been bought, but just before concluding, he had this to say.
It's driven to the purse of government from this ministry. That of course will tell us the picture of what the revenue profile is going to be like. But each time you come up with only expenditure. And you can imagine the ministry that has allocated billions of naira. All you have come up with is 620,000 naira. I just believe, we have not exhausted all avenues to ensure that more resources, more revenue is driven to the purse of government from this ministry. You have to look inwards. We query that very seriously. It only means the appropriation that we did last year was misdirected. The appropriation for the establishment of cultural industries last year was misdirected or misappropriated. And you diverted them, to two out of the three, in which case the original intention of 6, which was reduced to 3, you further reduced it to 2, and then of course you did the allocation of the funds yourself. So that portion that the remaining balance will be used to open up the land for easy access. I think that needs a whole lot of explanation. And I want to say, even in the face of your explanation, it is not in consonance with the spirit of the appropriation that was done for the establishment of cultural industries last year.
So how was the senator reacting, or should I say the lawmaker there reacting to much of the presentation of the 2017 budget by the Minister of Information? Now, you pretty much drew the attention of everybody to the fact that, wait, there was something we agreed when we all sat across this table, a year ago for the 2016 appropriation. Why are we now talking about 6 becoming 3 and 3 becoming 2 when it comes to cultural centers? And you use some very, very key words that I'm thinking the Minister of Information would take out time to pretty much explain to everybody else as the time unfolds. The words misappropriated, diverted, those are no words that anybody would like to be used on them. So we'll see whether the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, will take out his time to look into pretty much of these statements and explain, like they say, to everybody else regarding what had gone differently from the initial submitted plan in 2016. How did 6 become 3 and how did 3 become 2 in terms of the cultural centers? Revenue profile of the ministry. Essentially, he talked. The lawmaker said, "Oh, there's always more about the expenditure, things to buy, as against things that have been money that's coming essentially from this ministry." So here and there, you find them pushing and pushing and pushing. Not to say, I can't be too early to say that something major may become what to talk about from this, but it's just good to know that at least it was said so. I remember the 2016 budget, the two-regime back and forth that went around it was so intriguing in nature that at the end of, by the time we started leaving out the budget, if we did, leave out the budget, or we leave out much of the stimulus package around the budget, one would say, oh, well, these debates fruitful? Were they fruitful? Can they be said to be fruitful? Did they provide a significant achievement that they were poised to attain in the very instance in this right? Now, of course, many of you do know as well, there's a lot going on about, even the lawmaker who talked about the fact that there was a China deal. He said there was a China deal of $19 billion US dollars stolen crude. And they talked about the signature of the president being forged. He presented documents that pretty much conveyed that idea as well. Anyway, let's see whether we can take that. And also, I would love to share with you, if I can, if not today, tomorrow, what Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida is finally broken his media silence and he's trying to get the story right. For many of you who thought about him differently, if I can share that with you today, I will share with you what exactly he has put out there as the real story of Nigeria under his time, under his leadership, and even beyond. We'll find out if we can do that today. But stay with me right here. This is Family Live. When we do come back from the break, let's take up a little bit and profile what the National Bureau of Statistics is saying about some of the biggest movers, the highest achievers when it comes to items that pretty much make the consumer price index to fly. Do they fly? You'll be surprised. Some of these items I'm about to read out to you have become items that moved from silver to gold. They were nowhere closer to attaining these figures, but suddenly they have attained figures that can only be said to be historic in nature. This and many more coming up after the break. Stay with me.
Nothing breaks the news like the news. Trust me, I can prove it. I'm ready. Let's take on the biggest debates on radio, provide insights, experience, and build an unforgettable discussion together. I am Femi D. Amele. Let's talk with Femi D Live is on.
This is Femi D Live.
Welcome back to the show this very evening. 4 men are on their way to see President Muhammadu Buhari. I'm talking about Deputy Speaker Lasun Yusuf, as well Senate Leader Senator Ahmed Lawan, Speaker of the House of Representatives Yakubu Dogara, and not missing out on the Senate President himself, Dr. Bukola Saraki. Well, they'll be meeting with him to get his ideas on the little bit on how the country so far is being run and his ideas on how it should be run now. Even though I also hear in some quarters that it appears confirmation, deliberation, and arguments it's going on regarding the EFCC chairman as well. We'll see how the story breaks forward, and we'll follow through to let you know where that goes forward. But hey, we would see what they do come back when they return to the country, talking about the 4 men visiting the president out there. All right, as well, one man has made the news, Iheozoa Agbonayima. Well, he's been talking extensively about the fact that there could be a possible alleged forgery. Now, let me use that phrase incorrectly. Alleged forgery of the president's signature. He is, by the way, a member of the House of Representatives. So he says $19 million may have been forged. Let's take a listen quickly to what he said.
Look. Alice Mandueke, I'll tell you, and she was part of it. From head to toes. From the lowest cadet to the highest authority of NNPC. If you begin to look in-depthly, you'll be surprised and you'll be shocked. The revelation that will come out of it. So we must support the EFCC, whether we like it or not, and I must appreciate the Attorney General of the Federation. Even there's another issue that you have not heard about, that I'm about to tell you. We have over 19 million crude in China that was stolen. Even at the time, they wanted somebody forged President Buhari's signature to go and sell that crude. I have done a lot of investigation by myself, try to see what happened, what is going on in Nigeria. What is our major problem? We must look at the solution. In every problem, there is bound to have a solution. What is the solution? So I thank the AFCC, and I thank Attorney General, I thank the Speaker, that is Yakubu Dogara, for giving me a supporting hand, because I've been doing about this for a long time. But today, you begin to see, by the time we unearth all the atrocity committed by NNPC, you'll be shocked. And this 8th session, National Assembly, we are committed to bring to bear that this country belongs to you and I, and the money that have been stolen from this country, it is your money.
So much of that continues to go on. Honorable Eze Ehioma Ozua Agbonayim speaking extensively about possible forgery of the president's signature and as well funds that have been related or connected now with the NNPC. The NNPC has been in interesting light in the last few days. Of course, its ex-NNPC boss, Andrew Yakubu, as well, has had to forfeit as much as $9.8 million US found at his home in Sabon Tasha in Kaduna. And that's really dramatic in nature. He said he received those funds from an unknown person. In the court ruling from Kano earlier on today, they said he had to let go of such amounts of money in this regard. Also, keeping up with the fact that I do understand that the federal government and Labour have reached an agreement regarding the review of the minimum wage. Ayub Wahab, yes, okay, alongside with the federal government delegates, they have been meeting with the federal government in such light, and a technical committee is reviewing much of that. They are approaching that point where they'll talk about the minimum wage again. Remember, the majority of the Nigerian Labour Congress and TUC are asking for as much as 56,000 naira or thereabout. Well, those are the figures that they are to go about. Talking about figures, let's move on now very quickly. Now, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics released at 12 noon today figures that best indicates where we're going, left, right, center, up, down, or somewhere around. Well, these figures pretty much tell you where we are. It's pretty much not political in nature. It's based on their survey, scientific in nature. And here are the indications they were able to provide. Let me start off by telling you that the new figures that they arrived at when it comes to inflation is higher than the way we left it in December 2016. For January, they say for the consumer price index, the new figures is 18.72. That's the new figure around this at this time, 18.72. That's the set of figures. And well, lots of things are responsible for this movement over and over again. They go on from musical instruments to education to restaurants, hotels, food, pharmacy, equipment, what have you, food, fish, meats, bread and cereal. These are the items that when they move these figures and they move the inflation rate of the country. 18.72% year on year. From December it was 18.55%. So one can say by 1% we've seen a very unfriendly increase in the CPI. Now, you find the highest increase recorded for some items more than ever before. I'm talking about bread. Bread went higher than ever before. Cereal, meat, fish, oil and fats, potatoes, yams, and other tubers all did climb. And these figures, from what I see from many months now, it appears the inflation rate is going up and just not declining. Well, the food sub-index within the consumer price index was 17.82. But highest increase, like I said, was really around these food items. Some other items did get its own share of reasons why things have gone higher than ever imagined before. What am I talking about? The likes of electricity, gas, passenger transport, liquid fuel, fuel in itself, the way you and I use it, solid fuel, all on the rise. They've broken their record and just gone higher and higher and higher than ever before. And this leaves you with so much to reflect on. Remember, this morning we were talking about the indicators and ideas put out there by some executive chiefs or some economic chiefs of the country saying, oh, well, we can say we are confident of progress. So, but however, one would see a straight line between the claim and the scientific result that there is at hand. So where do we find ourselves? What do you think about the inflation rate figures that have now come out to say Nigeria is actually not going, is not making, the inflation index is not declining. The index appears to still be rising, even at the nearest times. What are your ideas? And by the way, for petrol, diesel, and all the figures, about 5 other reports were also released, and they were also with some unfriendly figures to a large extent in this slide.
A great talk show unravels your thinking, makes you stop to listen, engages you in a debate of opinions.
I believe this man knows what he is doing. He is a Nigerian.
And ultimately brings you to the king of talk radio, Femi D Live.